Greetings frequent flyers, this is Wandering Scholar speaking to you from Miami.
My very first journey with Lufthansa started on a note of mild Florida autumn as I arrived at Miami International Airport. Lufthansa, among other international Star Alliance carriers, can be found at the South Terminal at Miami. Check-in counter for Lufthansa is quiet when I arrived with about 90 minutes until departure. Interestingly, Lufthansa has different policies for its different subsidiaries. Flying Austrian during the pandemic definitely doesn't sound pleasant when you have to wear N95 masks throughout the flight.
Now, post-COVID, literally all airlines should adopt the sit-down check-in method. I feel like as if I just went through a conference after checking in at the counter there.
The Star Alliance Go Track security recouped the time consumed at check-in and took me to airside in less than 5 minutes. Although I'd make sure to arrive last minute if I were flying Star Alliance out of Miami again.
Now, Miami Airport is definitely not one of those exciting destinations that you'll want to be hours before your flight.
Lufthansa's passengers are directed to the Turkish Airlines Lounge, which is also a contracted lounge for companies such as Priority Pass. This created a slow-moving queue upon entrance and a fairly crowded lounge space on this weekday afternoon. The Star Alliance lounge footprint on Miami leaves much to be desired. Even though it's my first time flying on Lufthansa, I've visited many of their lounges before and I can't find anything exciting about them. Especially when Star Alliance Go gets better lounge than paying business class passengers. After a brief stop at the Turkish Lounge, it's time to meet the Queen, taking me across the pond today.
Now, I can't wait to say a brief goodbye to America. Let's see you on board Lufthansa's Queen of the Skies.
Boarding the Super Jumbo can be overwhelming, but the poorly organized boarding area made it an even more hectic experience.
Hello.
Business and first class passengers boarded through door left 1, and as I'm seated in the upper deck today, I turn right for the stairs. Lufthansa 747-8 has 3 business class sections with a total of 80 seats, and 32 of those are located on the upper deck.
Hey, hello.
Comparing to the 6-abreast business class cabin downstairs, the upper deck is in a much more intimate 2-and-2 layout. With an exit door separating the already small cabin into 2 sections, there is definitely a higher level of privacy despite the open layout of the seats. My friend and I assign ourselves bulkhead seats during online check-in, and these seats makes a huge difference in lie flat mode given their larger ottoman. It's been a while since I've flown on the upper deck of a double-decker, and sitting in the very front with few passengers this time really allowed me to feel the tranquility that cannot be found on any other commercial aircraft.
Nutzen Sie zum Verstauen des Handgepäcks auch.
2463 Heavy, Mem 7 right, will line up and wait. Traffic on final landing, north parallel.
Line up and wait, number 463 on runway 28 right. Miami Towers, Francis 73 Heavy. Francis 73 Heavy, Miami.
Right, clear for takeoff.
Departing over runway 28 right. Iron off butter, number 463. French 273 Heavy, Miami Tower, did you have a question?
Taking off to the east from Miami Airport is always followed by a flyover of downtown and South Beach, and then in this case a left turn aligning to the north as we embark on our 8 hours long Atlantic crossing this evening. Eastbound evening transatlantic departures are usually kicked off with a supper and followed by a full night's sleep before waking up to morning in Europe. This was no different on this Lufthansa flight, as dinner commenced after takeoff, or I should say an hour or two after takeoff. By the time the meal was on the table, it was already dark outside of the cabin. I have flown transatlantic a few times in the past on both premium carriers and budget-restrained airlines such as TAP Portugal, but the meal on Lufthansa is unfortunately ranked near the bottom of all I had endured. If the presentation and taste alone is not bad enough, the cheese and dessert did not arrive until we reached the New England shores, at which point we were well over 2.5 hours into the flight. Little did I know that economy class service has concluded well in advance by the time when I went downstairs, and if there's one thing I love about Lufthansa on this flight, it's how they managed to keep their cabin really dark. Back on top, it's time to get some well-needed rest before we hit the prime meridian. On my flight, the crew did not offer a turn-down service, however, a plush duvet and pillow were provided at the seat during boarding. Setting aside the almost non-existent privacy at this seat, the design of the storage cabinet is really confounding as well. It took me a while to find this tucked away cubicle where the water was stored. Breakfast commenced an hour and a half before landing and started with an Earl Grey tea presented in this paper cup looking coffee mug. It was followed by a choice between a continental and hot breakfast. No doubt I chose the latter. Once again, everything was delivered on one tray, and in breakfast standard, the food is much more acceptable compared to the dinner earlier. The final hour of many eastbound transatlantic is always the hour of sunrise, and the interminably clear skies in the stratosphere ended this flight on a high note. My first flight with Lufthansa matched my already lowered expectation, but the food service is still a clear letdown. Given the plethora of options available across the Atlantic nowadays, Lufthansa's business class hard product and service does not demonstrate a competitive advantage, and I definitely wouldn't have booked them if I were not redeeming miles for this flight. While airlines such as American can ensure you a decent overnight sleep with the industry standard seat, Lufthansa's obsolete 2-2 layout is far from desired, as the airline continues to delay its new business class product. Until then, at least to me, Lufthansa is just another cost-restrained airline that carries you from point A to point B without fuss. It has been a pleasure, and I can't wait for our next departure. Thank you for watching this Wandering Scholar video.